Hey, it's Matt with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and this is Thursday, July the 18th. It was an interesting day today. It started off just with a whirlwind straight up, and then we finally had the break of the trend line that I show right here. We made a new high, so I didn't think this was good enough to be a break and a retest, but maybe it was because we've been selling off ever since then. But all day I've been thinking that it was going to bounce and make a new retest, and we may still do it. There's still um, 45 minutes left in the day or so while I'm at this point, so it's possible we could make a trap here and then make another leg up like this, but I'm more inclined to think we're going to make another leg down for the retest on this. So maybe this was good enough for the retest, but it sure threw me off. I really thought we were going for the retest right here, but we didn't, and it turned out to be a long trap, and down we went again. And but you can see this channel, and there's been no break really till right. I thought we were going to get a break right here, and it just didn't happen. And then we went lower. We had a little overshoot here, so then when you get an overshoot here, same thing here. Then we overshot it here, and you overshot it up here. So generally, when you get measured moves, so you get overshot here, you get one here, and then you get one back up here. And my guess is we'll get another one down here, maybe if we work that way. We just got to see what happens. But at this point, I'm more inclined to think prices are going to make another leg down like this. Although I was looking for a new high here and all day. So, but you can't ignore these trend channels. You got to go with what you see. But let's talk about the trades and get on through this. I traded really late today compared to what I usually do. So I was trading. It took forever for this to get up here, and I'll explain that when I get there. But I had some runners, but obviously that I thought I was going to take for the retest, but obviously that didn't work out for me. So I misread that one. But anyway, let's talk about the trades. The first setup I saw that was worth taking was right here. It's a second entry long. You can see two bounces off the EMA, possible trend line. I wasn't sure about this trend line yet. Sometimes it's off the closes, and either way you drew it there, it was still okay. But I later adjusted it just off that line like that. And when we bounced there again and couldn't close below that, I felt pretty confident about that. That's the first close we got. So second entry long there, prices are moving up. Failed second entry short. Notice this, you got a new low, first entry short, second entry short. That's a trap. You go long there, easy scalp, nothing more. Now this trade right here, my runners were good on this one. So runners, if you held your runners, you could have ridden them at least up into this, maybe on up here. But anyway, there's the trap right there. No runners on that trap. It came back and got that. But then you had another kind of failed second entry short right there. It's really just a couple of bounces. I liked waiting on this one. I tried to use a limit order here. It didn't come back that far. It came back close, but it didn't quite come back enough to fill me. Then it went higher, and so what I did was it broke higher above that bar. I used a limit order a tick or so back into this bar and got filled there. Again, another failed second entry short. Here's your new low, first entry short, second entry short. So another trap. It's just a repeat of this right down here. And I got a little nervous on this one, but it just kept on going higher and kept on going higher. And any runners were safe here. So you could have ridden this all the way, at least up into this congestion, and even to the new high if you wanted. Just depends on how conservative you want to be, or whether you want to take profits or not. I prefer to take my profits when we find resistance. Sometimes I miss out on some big moves like that, but I don't give back. I think it works out in the wash because I don't give back my money, and I just look for a new entry. But then you had a two-legged pullback to the EMA here. We hadn't been to the EMA in a while. And notice this did kind of like we did yesterday. We're not getting back up to the upper side. We're kind of waning further to the right each time. So that should have been a clue that we may, that this was good enough for your break and your retest. But usually on a trend this strong, you're going to get two legs. And we just never could get it. It just didn't happen today. But also, one thing to be aware of is that we made an all-time new high today in in the ES here, so S&P did. So they're just, I think a lot of people are just, with that new high, people are just, taking profits and taking money off the table, and, they'll wait for a pullback and a better place to buy. And then I really thought, another reason I like this long going, here, was there's 2 legs back without a new high yet. So generally when that happens, that's the midpoint of a bigger move. So that was another reason I thought we were going to go work on higher here after this overshoot. But anyway, this was the last long, another easy scalp. Obviously no runners. The ideal thing to do is when you made this double top here, you got to exit right there in that overlap. And then we come down. I was really tempted to go long here, but the trend channel line just didn't look very good. And you can see the original, we kind of overshot it. So I'm thinking, hey, we've had so many midpoints lately that this may be a midpoint. So, and all that overlap. So I waited on this one, and I'm glad I did, because there really had been no trend line break. And I thought we were going to get it here, but we still closed below it. So nice place to go short. That's a breakout pullback short from this little trading range here. And quick move down. And then again, I'm thinking maybe we're going to bounce out of here. And the only reason I like this trade, it's really 2 legs back. You can see that one leg, a little correction, then the second leg. But there's a short trap right here. Let me back out and make it a little larger. There's a short trap right here. It broke below here and turned up. I liked going long right above that little doji. When it broke above there, it shot up real quickly. And it was amazing how quickly, it almost looked like a news event, but I think they were just hitting a lot of stops. But as quick as it went up, man, they beat it right back down again. And that was not a good sign there. That was I felt pretty confident then that, hey, we're in a downtrend, and I need to figure this channel out. So I drug this down to the lows. Once we broke through there and then started down again, you had to assume that we're probably coming down here. And so you got a first entry pullback, second entry, it kind of trapped people. So a second entry short with a big bearish bar. This is one you could have used a limit order right there at the bottom, or maybe even a tick in. That's what I did. Pretty quick move down, and then a double bottom and a failed second entry long. I drew this one in green because I didn't really like this setup bar. But it's a 2-legged pullback to the EMA, and what's a downtrend? And so, if you saw that, it worked real easily, but I just was a little leery of it. Didn't like it, and because I thought it would probably set up a trap and we'd go higher, but I was wrong. So then we came down, and this time we overshot the channel, and then we made this little failed move down here and turned up. I felt pretty confident. So I like this long. It is a little more aggressive because there's been no break of this trend line, but a lot of times an overshoot like this will lead to a reversal. So I thought, hey, we're probably going to go back higher here, and if we can get out of this channel, we may come back and test it and go higher. And we did kind of break out and come back and test it there and try to go higher, but there's just too much resistance up there today. So but anyway, if you saw this one, not a bad trade. And then somebody asked me why, somebody was asking me about this trap, and 2 or 3 people actually sent me an email about this. And, the one person said, well, why didn't you go short there? Well, the reason was because we just had an overshoot down here, and we'd gotten back into the upper side, and we'd tested that twice and couldn't go lower. So you had a little matching lows. So I didn't like that. Everything's above the EMA. This is a perfect place for a trap. So, there's no break of this little trend line. So when we bounced and turned up, a break above that is a short trap. And I was a little leery because this was so close. So what I did was drop me a limit order, and I was real conservative. I think I got in way down here somewhere. Because what I thought would happen was, we'd pull back, and I was hoping maybe we'd go below this bar first and then turn up, but we couldn't get that low. But I was able to get in way down here. I wanted to make sure I had enough room to get out before we got up here, but I didn't scalp out. What I did was just move my stop up here when that little bar formed, I got nervous. I thought we're probably going to break and go lower, so I moved my stop up here. But it kept on going, so I was able to get 2 points out of my scalp here because you want to get 1 point above the trap, and that allowed me from where I entered to get 2 points off of that. So it worked out really well. I really was hoping my runners, I had a lot of extra room on my runners, and I really was hoping, and this is this pattern here is almost a repeat pattern of this. We didn't break higher here like we did over here, but notice that's a kind of a repeat pattern. You got that little surge and then pulled back, and then it failed and went lower. So it's kind of a similar pattern. Just looking at this right here, it looks like we've probably got a trend line breaking a new low. So we may go higher here yet. Just have to see. There's only about 30 minutes left, but it's just been kind of an odd day. Started out really strong, and then it would look like it was going to get really weak, and then it's just kind of been choppy, kind of a trading range since then. But anyway, I like that trap, and so that kept me into I was just kind of watching and hoping that this trap would set up right here, because I really thought we were going higher, and so that's why I traded later today. And it does look like we're trying to go higher here. Let's just see what a measured leg here would give us. Would that give us a new high? Not quite. It gets you back up here, but that doesn't mean you can't get more than a measured move here either. So it's just been an interesting day, at least for me, because I haven't read it really well. I just wasn't sure a lot of times. So, but it still wasn't a bad trade. You made most of your money here, and even if you only got a couple of these, you still had a pretty good day. So, this is where all the money was made really today. So, but anyway, hope that makes sense. But another thing that people are always asking me about is, I'm looking for a retest. So they're buying everything all the way down through here, and they're wondering why they're getting stopped out. Well, you got to draw your trend line, like I always show you how to draw trend lines, and you can't buy this until there's been a break and a retest, or at least an attempt at a retest. So now we've tried twice to get back down here for a retest, and we still haven't got there. And we got a second entry long that may fail here, and we may go ahead and make it. But don't start looking to buy until the same thing here. I wasn't looking to buy. That's the reason I didn't buy this little double bottom, because hey, this is the first break of the trend line, and we're still in this lower half. There's still resistance right here, and that's why I didn't buy that little second entry long right there, because I wanted to see a better setup than that. You got to have room to get out before you get up here, and with this support here, if this holds, then you're not going to be able to get a limit order filled down here, and I might have just been lucky to get this one filled way down here, but I think a lot of people were obviously thinking like me, so they weren't willing to buy it up here, but when it came back down here, they were willing to buy it, and it just took a lot of time for it to finally work through there, because a lot of people aren't willing to buy it right here. Only traders that don't know what they're doing are willing to go long at these highs, and because that's exactly what would have got you here if you went long on that little second entry long. But the reason you don't like that, even though that's a nice bar, look at all that overlap. That's congestion, and this, and we're making lower. We got a double top, and of course you wouldn't have had the lower high when this broke higher. But look at all those matching highs right there and matching lows. What's the odds are going to happen? It's going to break out and pull back, even if it's going to go higher later. And that's why I thought we really were taking off here. But we couldn't even close outside the trend line, and that's not a good sign. So just trying to see if there's anything else of note today that might be a good teaching lesson, since we're only about 14 minutes into this. But down here, yeah, the reason I liked going long and thought we might break out, a lot of times when you don't get a retest right away, which now I'm wondering if we didn't get a retest right there. I really think we probably did. It's just all we could get because the resistance was so strong up there. But a lot of times, if you don't get a retest, what you'll do is you'll get like a two-legged correction with a trap and a reversal type pattern, and then you run on and you make another leg kind of like this, or you at least make a new high. And that's what I was looking to happen here, But obviously that changed once we got higher and couldn't make it. But you still have to take advantage of these setups when you see them. And but anyway, where I was going with that is an overshoot of a channel like this will usually lead to an overshoot on the other side. So that gave me more confidence that this trap was probably going to work out, and that's why I was willing to just not scalp out right there and move my stop. So I at least made 2 or 3 ticks if I was wrong, but if I'm right, I'm going to get a pretty good payday, and so I did. I got a scalp. 2 points on the scalp portion of my trade there, and I really thought I was going to get my runners to go higher too, but it just didn't work out that way for me. So, but that's why we scalp out and use runners, because we don't always get it right. It's pretty easy to determine where prices are going and what they're doing short term, and it's not really that hard even longer term, but trying to trade with low risk and small stops like we do, you can't risk being right or wrong. So that's why we do it the way we do. You know, if we're only going to scalp out for 1 point, we can't risk more than 2. And somebody else, I get a lot of questions about that. People read the manual, and I'll probably need to, you know, when we get through updating it, we'll probably clarify it. But the idea is, if you enter right here, the idea is your stop goes a tick or 2 below your signal bar right here. You don't necessarily want to use 2 points way down here and risk that here. What you're trying to do is get in with as little risk as you can. So that's why I like little small dojis at strong support or strong resistance, and because it gives you room to get in cheap with a real small stop, and by doing that you don't risk as much. So the idea with the 2 points is that's the maximum we're willing to give to get in a trade. And this was a good example right here. If you go long on this trap, right, that means you go long at, let's just see what that would have been, 1685.50. And so that means your stop would have to be right there, and that's not going to work more than likely. So what you do is you wait for the trigger and you come back and you move it down as much as you think you can to get away with it without being too conservative, and get back within the 2 points. So I was able to get in that thing. I think I entered at 84.50 because I exited. Yep, because I exited at 86.50. That was my 2 points. So I was in right here at 84.50, 1 tick off those lows there, and I got filled on that. It worked perfectly. So I was able to get in with 1, 2. If I just went 1 tick, I'd have had a 3 tick stop. That's it, and I'm on, and I got 2 out of it. So don't think that just because we say use a 2 point stop, that's the maximum. Your stop always has to go below the signal bar, because you have to use the price action structure to protect your stop. Because look how we came back to this area several times, but we never got back below that point. And I can show you that on these highs. Right there, there's a good example. If you entered short there, your stop had to go right there. And notice we never got above that. We came close, but that price action structure protected the stops on this bar right here. And then if you entered here, your stop goes a tick or 2 above that. And somebody actually went short right here on this trade right here. Somebody, or actually they went long right here, I think. I can't remember. There's somebody that wrote me 2 or 3 emails today, and I think they went short right here is what it was. And then they got stopped out and they re-entered right there. That's what they did. But on my chart, that's a first entry short, so I don't know why they took that. I think on their chart maybe it was a second entry short, but the second entry was not till over here on mine. So or maybe they had a long trap right here. That's what it was. If you're counting down, there's the first entry, then a second entry, so that's a long trap. But the reason you want to take that is because of the support right here, plus you just bounced off that with a pretty bullish bar from this low over here. So that's the reason I wouldn't like that trade right there, is because there's too much support right there and there's not very much room to scalp out. You know, you just got to look at the situation. This is similar over here. There wasn't much room, so that's the reason I used a limit order to get in way back here. But even if you got in at the top up here, you still didn't have room to get out of that one. So and that's probably what happened right here was a lot of people waited on that entry, and then they put their limit sell orders up here just below this line. It comes back and it fills it, and then it goes straight down. So I'm guessing that's probably why you got that big stem right there. So hopefully that makes sense to that trader and anybody else that I just explained that to. So always make sure you got room to scalp out. Like right here, this is not a very good short with all that overlap of doji, and notice you don't have much room to scalp out. I think it would have worked. Your entry would have been 83.50, and look at there, it's a 4-tick failure at this point. So, you know, their stop is still safe if they put it above the signal bar right there. And now you might have a little trap, but we may be going higher too, so we'll just have to see. But always make sure you got room to scalp out, or you have to use the limit order and start backing up and hoping you get filled, or either you just miss the trade. But that's much better than getting 4 ticks and not getting filled and then it going the other way on you. So anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. And one other thing, make sure you draw these short-term trend lines because they will help. You know, and we really hadn't gotten a retest on this one. You might could call this a retest. This line is probably a little more over here like so. And we broke it right there and kind of came back. So that's kind of a retest. But I'm still thinking we may go higher here. I'm thinking this looks like a trap. You got a failed break lower below these lows right across here, and then now you may have a higher low, or you do have a higher low at this point, and you know it's really that's not a failed second entry yet unless you count it off this one, which it could be. So you could count it that way. It's not as it's not as high probability of a trap, but it's still somewhat of a short trap there. So my guess is we're going up, make another move to the high side. So it's too late in the day to be trading with 15 minutes left. But anyway, hope you had a good trading day. And if not, maybe a better one tomorrow. But I'm going to wrap it up. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.